Thanks for joining us today, Ben. Ben, for those of you who don't know, is the founder of Novel Wines, one of our awesome brand partners, and um, and also one of our longest-standing members at Yena, who has gone from an idea to quite a remarkable business. Welcome, Ben. Thanks for spending this time in what is obviously a crazy time for any business, but almost certainly for a retail business too. Keen to find out how you're handling things and also how your birthday on the weekend went.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of been making up as we go along. The weekend was good fun. I did absolutely nothing. Drank lots of water, which is how I like to spend my birthday. The sign was lovely, keeps me up. But yeah, it's back to work almost every day, almost like normal. Sending out loads of wine orders, keeping customers happy while they're sitting at home, doing all the local orders for free as well. So we're delivering locally free of charge. Just trying to make the most of the situation how we can. I mean, our restaurants are struggling. Um, and then also on the flip side, by trying to get everyone to buy locally from us, remembering that I should buy locally as well. So I sent something out Twitter yesterday, bought probably about 8 different boxes from different people that are all being delivered. At some point in the future, just don't survive, we don't survive. So that's important.
Of course. I think it's important to note that any internet interruption that we're having here is because you're based in what is currently clearly sunny Bath, and not the home to high-speed internet connection over in that part of the world, unfortunately. Although it is home to some remarkable wine, there's some priorities they've got right. But you mentioned obviously buying more locally, restaurants struggling. How are you finding that more people are buying more? Like I've started to realize I'm drinking wine on a more regular occasion, and it's not a coping mechanism. Nobody needs to worry, but it's I'm home more often, and I'm cooking at home more often. And therefore, there's like something that I might want to enjoy with food. Are you finding there's more purchases in that respect, but that's harder to deliver? What's business look like for you right now?
So I mean, it's interesting. So we lost obviously all our restaurants, hospitality, on trade stuff. We do about 300 events a year. So if you wipe out half the year, we wipe out half of our event revenue, which hurts. um, but what we have seen is, well, like you say, people are drinking more at home, but also it's more difficult to get your wine from the supermarkets because all the shelves are empty. All the big guys like the Wine Society have had to temporarily close their warehousing to set up more kind of safer working conditions for their staff. So there's been a lot of people looking about where they can find their wines, and we've seen a lot of new customers. But the real growth is in the return customers who really want to support us, who are coming out and just trying to make sure they stock up with our wines, which is fantastic. We've had to be very proactive because now we haven't got the restaurants and all that money coming in. We have to email our best customers, check in how they're getting on. We've had to pull up special cases to help stock management. So we've now got a buyer selection case where we can choose the wines included based on the stock we have. And a lot of first time customers are loving that because they get to try no two wines the same in their case and discover how good these wines can be because they're pretty damn good. Um, and then most of our suppliers, like the bonded warehousing and things like that, they've been brilliant. They've kept business going as normally as they possibly can. There's been very few delays. I've got a lot of out of stock lines, but that's not their fault. That's just all the brilliant customers buying lots of wine. Um, but we've got to sustain it because this isn't going to finish next week. We've suddenly got to make all our event revenue, all our trade revenue, and all the other kinds of revenue we get from meeting people and being out and about um, through purely online and telephone sales. Um, so yes, okay, we've seen probably a 260, 300% growth in the last 2.5 weeks. It's bigger than Christmas, but it's only bigger on the online side. That doesn't account for the losses that we're stomaching from the other areas of the business. The kind of positive thing about Novel Wines is we started as an online business and we started as an online retailer. So we have the foundations that our and some of our competitors don't have. But the trade is working together really well. So those people who weren't online have been ringing. We've been offering support. They've worked with. There's a local company called Go60 who are now doing deliveries for some people. So there's a lot of working together, which is good to see.
Yeah, that's been a huge part of what we've been seeing as a positive from these negative times, right? Where collaboration is more apparent than it's ever been, and there's innovation coming from necessity. I was chatting to James at Go Squared about this the other day, and he said, amongst all the negativity, there are positives to come from it, and that's obviously the optimistic point of view. So then, I guess on both the optimism and the pessimism point of view, you've got like how does a company in this case mitigate risk? It sounds like you're taking active, you're making moves to mitigate certain risks and going back to your roots of online retail and doubling down, or in this case, by the sounds of things, tripling down on that to make up for lost revenues. Are there any things that you're doing, I guess, structurally, operationally, to avoid any further disruption? And then I'll lead into a positive after that, which is around how does that then affect the business going forward? Are there new ways of working that you think you'll adopt for the long term as a result of this right now?
Good question. So structurally, I've tried to keep everything as much the same as possible. We're a growing company, so there's been some interesting movements anyway from the startup world of being quite reactive to implementing business processes with, just take one example, logistics, the kind of ordering paperwork and how we file that and the accounting of stock and things like that. We now have processes where before we were trying to find the time to implement them. Now we have to implement them to make sure that everything is accurate to make up all the retail orders. So things like processing and moving the company more into an SME state has been able to happen because by the time Parcel Force collects at 2 o'clock every day, we've got the rest of the day where we can't send anything else out. So once the local deliveries are done, we can focus on the admin and the processing a bit more. So that's been helpful and good. I've not furloughed anyone because we want to keep every member of the team working. We'd rather be adaptive than kind of, if you have to, you have to. But I think the better scenario is if you can avoid it, try and work with business because our restaurants having to furlough people and things like that. So that they need the money more than we do, and I think it's trying to work for everyone else as well as yourself. Things we will do is we're doing a lot more with customer loyalty because the return rate is so high during this period, and actually it's the return customers who've kept us going. They're really important. So we're doing a lot more investment into keeping people. Luckily, we have very good quality products that we have a high return rate for the trade anyway. It's usually hovering about 35-40%, which is pretty high for. But they're the people who keep us going when we're struggling and will do us a favour and help us out and understand and take our recommendations as well, so we can manage stocks and things like that. So doing a lot more to keep customers, which is winning customers all the time is important to grow, but actually it's the people you keep who are going to keep you going when you need it, basically.
I think that's going to be probably one of the greatest things that come from this whole experience in the long run, right? We've seen years and years of a quote unquote bubble, certainly in the tech industry, of people growing and doing what I guess the founder of LinkedIn called split scaling, at all costs. And it shouldn't be at the cost of the original fans that loved you. And if you guys, you seem to be doing the right thing, right, which is making sure you're adding value. And I say it's the right thing because we believe the same thing too. Adding as much value as you can to the current customers, keeping them happy, keeping them there, because when you come out the other side, they should be the ones that stay with you even longer. You've also built new best practices for the new customers you win, and they'll stay longer too. So I think, taking the positives out of the challenges that currently exist, that's going to be a really big thing. What then, I guess, the final thing I really wanted to kind of ask you was, what your views, as someone who, and I know it's always a humbling experience to be told this, but as someone who's built a reasonably successful company from scratch, what were your advice is probably, or is definitely really, really important for startups at the early stage in retail and across all sectors. So what would your advice be to somebody who maybe, 1, 2, 3 years the junior of where you're at, be right now? What would you say to those people?
I think the biggest thing I always remember is the struggle in the first couple of years to make something work. It's problems with cash flow and kind of, you know, working on your own to build something up and find those first few customers that end up being the long-term customers. Solving problems. I remember when we didn't have one bottle of wine, and it was the worst thing that ever happened. And and adjusting to those things. And I think once you get over those first hurdles in the second year of business, and you manage to push through those initial problems, and you learn how to sell really more than anything, but also learn how to look after not just your customers, but the people you work with and the people around you. Then even when you have problems later on, they're not things you can't solve because you've been through it already and you've learned how to fix things like this, or you've at least learned how to manage the situation. You can talk to customers and actually, okay, first time you bring a customer and say you don't have the wine or it's been delayed, it's a scary thing. But then you realize that, you can talk them through the solution, and most people are quite reasonable. The other thing is we've always tried really hard to support other local businesses, work with other people, be open to trying things. If someone comes to us with an idea of why don't we partner on this or whatever, we usually give it a go because we would have liked people to do the same for us at the beginning. But also, again, if you have that community and network where you've helped them, they come back and help you later. And then any problem you have, there's someone you can call on, there's someone who can point you in the right direction, there's a support network for you. It's like I was saying, if we're going to try and berate everyone to buy their wine locally, why aren't I buying everything else I need locally as well? Why am I still going to Sainsbury's when there's a little greengrocers, Why am I buying my beer from whoever when Electric Bear's down the road? Or, and then people like every day there's a chap called David who picks up parcels for Parcel Force. He doesn't have to, but he rings us every morning to tell us when he's coming in. He tries to adjust his route to fit around when the orders are. And he's a really good guy to us. So every time he's in, it's quite lonely going around doing deliveries. We make sure we have a chat. He's been the hero who's made sure all the customers have got it out on time, got their wine on time, sorry. And they're the people you've got to look after. Everyone's clapping key workers and everything, but in your own circle, there's a little bit what you want to do as an entrepreneur actually happen. And you should remember that, really. Because it's humbling to be say, okay, we'll build it from scratch, but there's a lot of people who've helped me build it. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, I obviously we champion that completely. Social currency, as we call it, is incredibly valuable. People see it as favors or surface swaps, but there's a real economy to it, and you call it karma, you can call it it's looking after you, but it's simply a logical swap of what people need at whatever time, and that's really important. to remember who helped at that time, and how to give back. And obviously that's been a huge support, and in what we've done too. You've gone from nothing to building this amazing business, and now thankfully are one of our awesome brand partners too. So again, we thank you for that, because thanks to yourself and our other partners, we have been able to support hundreds of people throughout this process, and hopefully hundreds more as time goes on. So a big thank you from all of us in the community and the team here to you. We will obviously continue buying locally, but also from within the community, and the people who we support, and the people that support us. But hopefully everybody's been able to learn something, just a little thing from your story and what you're doing at the moment. From the time you spent today. Just wanted to find out if there's anything else that you wanted to cover before we wrap up here. Don't want to take up too much of your time during such a crazy period, but thank you.
Yeah, no, my pleasure. I would say credit to Yeno as well. I mean, it's an easy thing to support you guys, because you do exactly what we're trying to do, which is support people and build new businesses. And there's also that excitement of new ideas as well. It's kind of irresistible not to be chatting to someone who's got a thing that they're brewing or whatever. So yeah, it's an easy thing to support, and there's going to be a lot more people coming out of Yeno who do a lot better than I do and change the world. And I'll just help them drink something nice along the way.
We've all got to celebrate.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
Well, thanks so much again, Ben. Really, really appreciate it. I'll let you go and deliver some wine to some people that are very much probably needed it on a Monday evening. So thanks. And we'll catch up with you again soon, but appreciate it.
Great stuff. Cheers.
Thanks, Ben.